Hello, everybody. Welcome to the video. It's been a minute since I've been online. There's been so much stuff going on, at least in terms of publishing videos and stuff. We're hoping, spirit willing, that we will be in housing from the city within the next week or two. We're hoping for before Christmas. My boys really want to have a Christmas in their own space, and unfortunately, my DM is still wrapped up enough in Pirates that he already said he ain't going to do nothing for the holidays. And so my boys really deserve to have that space and that effort. But for right now, we've been lucky enough that some local charities have put us in a hotel room for a minute, so we're at least not in the car in the cold. Um, but otherwise, I've been feeling really called over the past couple of days to do kind of a DM check-in video. And it's interesting following this energy of like both releasing labels and also, working with them when it feels right. Not being in either energy of like entire exclusion or entire inclusivity either. So it'll be interesting to see the way that my channel changes over time with this stuff. Anyways, I'm going to do this with the screen facing away. Spirit says it's good for today. And actually, so I've got some messages that have just been generally coming through to me over the week that are like, I can tell that they're part of this message. And then I've got some cards that actually, earlier in last week, well, let's see how many days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days worth of cards. So probably about the last 2 weeks, Spirit had said, start pulling a daily card for energy and get back into learning more about them. Remember, if you're a tarot reader or you do other forms of divination, don't ever think that just because you've gotten a pattern down, that doesn't mean that you can't learn more or see what other people are interpreting things as with the cards or with your preferred form of divination. Always be open to learning. You know what I mean? Growth is part of the human experience, and a lot of times I think we start preparing to die and forget to live when we stop growing, when we start believing that we just know everything already, or that we're supposed to know everything ever. We're not. So, in any case, I would say within the last 14 days, I've been pulling these cards. Not every day, but 11 out of those 14 days ain't too bad. And so when I was like, okay, I hear you, Spirit, I hear you, guides, I hear you, DMs, that you want me to do some stuff, and I picked up my deck so that I could do the reading, and it said, no, the cards that you need for this are the ones that you pulled and separated for your daily, for your daily energies when you pulled them. So it's pretty cool. Now, before I get into that, what I am sensing largely with this DM energies is that there's a fair amount of them that are in situations where, like, many of them got into the karmic cycles that they're in because they focused on like materialism, and some of it was necessity, but a lot of it was just, wanting to have more than they had growing up. A lot of them did not grow up with a lot of money, and some of them grew up in really abusive situations. And so their idea of what adult life was supposed to look like was already conditioned to be unhealthy, right? And so they focused a lot on that stuff. And for many of these DMs, the funny thing is, like, they have leveled themselves up, like, financially. They do make more. They got the purse, they got the bag. They might even have new houses or real estate or businesses or things like that. But they're starting. Here's the funny thing. This is what my guides are telling me is that they needed to do that. They needed to be able to get to that space where they had those pentacles, they had those resources, they had that stuff, so that when they got there, they learned that it really does matter how you get that stuff and who you get that stuff with. Because we're humans, we don't do anything alone. Like, you can still be very introverted, you can still be very minimal in relationships and things like that. You can do that sort of thing, but you can't do anything alone, not unless you want to go live in the woods all by yourself. And even at that, you're still going to be getting help from spirit and animals and weather and things like that. Like, there's no alone. 4:44 on the clock, I saw. Anyways, so these masculines, a lot of them are in this space now to where, like, they have what they feel like they needed in order to feel like the masculine, right? Maybe not divine masculine, but they begged, borrowed, cheated, stole, robbed Peter to pay Paul. They did all the things that they thought that they needed to in order to get the things that they felt like they needed to feel like they could measure themselves as a masculine. But now they're in this situation where they feel imprisoned by it, you know? They're A lot of them are in karmic situations where they're not just paying for their karmic and or their karmic's children or children they have with them. They're also paying for the karmic's family and extras and their kids part, girlfriends and boyfriends and their pets and everything else. And it's not just that they're paying for it, they're also doing all the house chores and they're having to keep things cleaned up. And if they have interactions with you that involve children, that also takes a toll on all of it, especially if you are divine feminine listening to this, because you uphold healthy standards. So they have to also interact with that. And they're in this space to where they're realizing, like, when they first made the agreement to be involved with these karmics, it's not uncommon when we're in a honeymoon phase to be like, oh yeah, I'll do all these things, da da da. We're filled full of hormones and bad conditioning and attachment traumas and all sorts of stuff. But typically, there is some amount of meeting of what we say we will do, or at least an agreement to do it. And these masculines are finding that they're not with people that do that. Like, in fact, the overwhelming feeling that I'm getting from these masculines that I'm channeling is like, no love, no holidays, no nothing, no none of that stuff. And like they're in a space where, hang on a second, my youngest son is messaging me. It's about, he messaged me about what car should he play with in his game. In any case, so like, the message I'm getting is like, no love, no holidays, like somehow, a lot of these masculines took for granted, especially if you were with them before and you did holiday stuff and you took care of the divine feminine stuff, the wifey stuff, things like that. They're with karmics who don't really do that, not unless they're under pressure, or masculines put up a big argument about it or complain about it. Like they really don't do anything. And so these masculines are in a space to where they're already handling so many things that even if they wanted to, like, they could, like, that a lot of them are still learning self-esteem and self-respect, but like they could throw together something, but it just doesn't feel right because they're upset because this, I'm paying the bills, I'm paying the mortgage, I'm paying for all your fancy video watching things, Disney Plus and Amazon and Netflix. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm cleaning the house. I'm cleaning up after you and your family and their friends and your friends and all this stuff. And, and I'm paying the price for this and for that. And you're not even putting together a holiday thing. You're not even putting together a meal. You're not cooking the dinners. You're not cleaning the house. You're not participating. You're not keeping up your share. You're not paying bills with me. And a lot of these karmics too have also gotten into schemes and scams. So on top of all of that nonsense, there are, this is Saturn season. Like, there are karmic repercussions. This is when you pay the piper, and a lot of them have been in spaces where they've been able to kind of, keep things under the rug or in the closet for a little while, but eventually you put so much under the rug and you can't put any more under the rug. It all starts falling out. You can't shove any more in the closet. It's just falls out. You can't close the door, right? And so a lot of these masculines are in this space to where they're finally seeing that lesson, that it does matter. Like, you don't just want any breathing body as a partner. You don't just want to be with someone that you feel like needs you, because someone who needs you is likely going to hold on to you until you have nothing left. Versus someone who wants you, they're going to put in that effort. They're going to make sure that they're upholding their end, even if you don't always see it. Even if you take it for granted, they're doing their things. And for a lot of these divine masculines I'm kind of seeing this, like, okay, when I was younger, I remember occasionally my parents would take me to downtown Seattle to see the lighting of the tree or the lighting of the Christmas star. I think it was on the Sears building, but I'm not positive. It might have been a different one. But I remember like when it would start to light up, it would like, it wasn't LED because back then they didn't have LED, but it kind of like, it was like fluorescent. So it like flickered on until it was on all the way and stayed on. And so what I'm kind of seeing right now is for divine masculines, it's that flickering of that divine light. Like let's say that they've been still trying to figure out their masculine energy and their balance between masculine, feminine, things like that. And now like that divine masculine energy is coming in because they realize they achieved the material goals that they wanted. They make enough money. They don't get to use that money for stuff they want. They don't get to keep it, but they're in karmic situations where it's going to keep going away and going away. And they're in a space to where it's like, what use is having achieved all of those things as a masculine if you can't use it for fun or to help people, or you can't feel comfortable, you can't stop working all the time, if it doesn't stop the fights, and a lot of these masculines too are the types that like they'll get themselves into relationships where they end up basically being slave to the other person, 11:11 on the clock, and then the other person doesn't even appreciate it. So on top of doing everything and really not having healthy boundaries, they also have, these people that are never happy with what they do. And so they're kind of sitting there like looking at all they've achieved, surveying everything the light touches, that kind of thing. And they're like, look at all of this that I can do. Why am I sharing this with people who don't even care enough to clean up the kitchen, who don't care enough to clean up the bathroom, who don't care enough to help make my life a little bit easier, who don't care enough to say happy holidays, who don't care enough to ask what I want, what I need, who don't care enough when they know what I want and I need to make sure that I get that too when I'm doing all these things, right? And a lot of them are looking back at times in their lives when they had less materially, but they had a lot more. 12:12 on the clock, in terms of that love and that appreciation, and you may have been the type of divine feminine too that always said, look, we could live in a box, I'll still make it like home, we could still make it work, it'd be great, live in a car, live in a shed, live in a castle, it doesn't matter. And they took that for granted before, especially if you were the type that did a fair amount of things that are kind of considered those thankless jobs, especially if there's kids involved and things like that. If you put together the holidays, you did those things. And if it wasn't you, then someone else in their life did something like that. And they're really recognizing now that at that time, they spent most of their time complaining and, oh, I don't have all the markers I feel like I need to feel like I measure up to be a man, and things like that. And now they have those things, but they don't have you, and they don't have that family energy, and they don't have that closeness, and they're feeling incredibly lonely, and frustrated. And also a song sync came through earlier that tells me they're also feeling mischievous, which is it's was it he's Mr. Heat Miser, he's Mr. I'm thinking it was he's Mr. Master, he's Mr. 10 Below. I don't know, I mix up the two songs, but like, it's the war between the summer and the winter, between good and evil and all that stuff, at least in their energy right now. That's what it feels like. It's like, what am I going to choose? Yeah, I could keep focusing on this material stuff, but it is just going to get me more of the same. And am I happy? No, I'm not happy. So, it's kind of like, do I stay in this cycle that I'm comfortable with, even though I feel like I'm in prison? And that it's never going to actually get better. It's just going to move around but be the same mess, like fill up one closet and then move away from it, fill up another closet till the doors don't close and stuff. And they're just going to keep doing this. And for a fair amount of these masculines too, they're getting towards middle age, or some of them are above it, and they're just looking at their lives going, it's not that they've achieved nothing, but they haven't really achieved what they feel like they wanted. And a lot of them wanted that kind of, not necessarily traditional male female relationship, but something kind of like that. They wanted teamwork and partnership. They wanted, to come home to a warm meal when they're done with working. They wanted someone who says thank you when they pay the bills and take out the garbage. They want someone who's also willing to weed whack and do the lawn here and there, and someone who does take care of the kids. And they really, they're craving that feminine energy, you know, in their lives, and they don't have it. And they're now sitting back thinking like, it's kind of that question of like, I think most of them know like they don't have to give up other things in order to have that, but it feels like they're asking themselves that question, especially because a lot of them are with karmics that are talking about doing some pretty nasty things if they let go of the relationship. But it's one of those like, would they be willing to give up all of the riches, all of the pentacles, all of the things that they worked hard to gain just to have love, happiness, balance? Like, could they have love, happiness, and balance without all the rest? That's a good question, right? Now, let's look at these cards that ended up getting pulled. So, 11 days worth of cards. And what we have the Nine of Wands reversed, that wounded warrior, but like kind of that still exhausted. Like an upright, at least the wounded warrior is getting to relax. But in this one, no, there's no relaxing, and it's a card of it's the boundaries are not healthy. They're tired, they're exhausted, and every time they think that they're going to get a step in the right direction, either their karmic steps in and creates chaos, or spirit steps in and says, no, this way is blocked, you cannot go this way, or other things happen. Then we get the Six of Cups. There's that nostalgia that, it's literally an elf giving a child a gift, a cup full of flowers and things like that, which suggests growth in the water and things like that, right? And there's also in the background, a lot of people don't notice, there's a soldier walking away, right? So this to me represents that nostalgia that they're feeling for that, how things were in their childhood. It could have been that their childhoods were entirely screwed up, but that they felt like the holidays were decent. Like when the holidays came together, people behaved themselves. They were kind. They got some gifts that, people pretended like they shared. And if they didn't have that in their childhood, but they had that with you, then that's where their heart is. Their heart is also in a space of like thinking about their children, you know, and how do they want their children to grow up? Do they want them to grow up and be selfish pirates, or do they want them to grow up and be healthy and generous, but with healthy boundaries? Do they want them to feel capable? Do they want them to be, to go through the cycles that they went through? Things like that. Then we have the Four of Pentacles reversed, which kind of speaks to that energy of like in upright, the Four of Pentacles, they're being a miser, which is funny. That song, right? That song's thinking. I didn't look at what cards these were really before going through, so this is funny. But it's like that song, Heat Miser and Snow Miser. Like Four of Pentacles is definitely a miser, but it feels like these masculines, what they're saying with this energy is they were misers in the upright. They were guarding things. They were holding secrets. They were trying to sit on their treasure. They were trying to hold on to what they felt like was the only thing that they had. And they were overly focused on materialism. And now they're realizing that they could stay that way. They can manifest all that if they want, but it's not making them happy. It's not bringing them stability. In fact, the fact that it's upright shows me that it's a bit of a tower, like and a heart chakra tower. Like the Four of Pentacles, the guy in it has his heart guarded by a pentacle, and these masculines are kind of in this state of realizing it's just a bit of ice. They're just ice now in their heart space. Like it's not all ice. Like obviously they wouldn't even be having these thoughts or thinking these things if it was all ice, but that's what they're noticing is like they built up this hard crusty exterior and covered it with pentacles, and what has it brought them? They're alone sitting on their box of treasure. Like they don't have help. They're dragging things around themselves or moving themselves. They're their contracts are all over the place, and things are not in a good way. It's really unstable. And of course right under that is the Tower reversed, right? So it's smaller towers, but it's still a lot of false foundations, and it's still a lot of things like it's like repeating cycles, and especially speaks to addictions and things of that nature. So like codependence, drinking, drugs, shopaholic, hoarding, things of that nature. Even drama itself is its own addictive cycle. And then, yeah, and then the Hierophant is right underneath that. So like they're, and to me, this speaks to that flickering light of the divinity. Like they had to get to this point where they had done all that, where they've they fought tooth and nail to get what they have. And oh, this is interesting. Say fire truck's about to drive by. What does that tell you, right? There's some chariot energy there, and also like, yeah, that divine light coming in, that siren going off in their heads, that they're like, I love it because on the side of the fire truck it says integrity, right? So it's like that Christmas star light that's flickering on, and they're realizing like, I think even they are realizing that they had to go through this because there's a lot of things they've been beating themselves up for, and likely especially in relationship to you, and especially in relationship to their children. And they're now in this kind of energy where they're really thinking about like fatherhood and how they've measured themselves as a man, how society measures a man, this masculine energy, and they're really in the space of like seeing the cycles, seeing it. And many of them are in a space where they're pretty much aligned to have like restart energy at New Year's, but they're staring in the face of a restart being in the same karmic energy they've been in for like, say, somewhere between the last like 2 and 5 years. And probably for many of them before that as well, but there's a significant karmic change that happened in that time. And they're looking at it going, this is just going to repeat. Do I want to repeat it? Do I want to be in this space, right? And because it's the Hierophant energy, it could also have to do with marriage. It could have to do with them repeating their parents' marriage cycles. It could be a repeated cycle with somebody that they're married to, or several people that they're, connected to in a matrimony sort of sense. Like there's a lot of things going on, but they're it's that flickering of like, I see what I'm doing wrong kind of thing. And I see that, spirit has been speaking to me, and I don't know if I want this anymore, sort of thing. Like once you get to manifesting stuff, and then you manifest what you want, sometimes you get to that space where it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you got exactly what you wanted. Is it making you happy? Do you still want it? That kind of stuff. Underneath that Hierophant, we have the Five of Swords reversed, which in upright, it's definitely a drama card. It's also one of those of like taking more than you need, and taking so much more than you need that you don't even have hands to pick up the extra things. And it's also thought wise too. And in reverse, it's another type of tower card. It's one of those like, they have people around them that are constantly taking in excess of what they need, and not only are they taking it and not using it, they're leaving messes of it. And these masculines, I think, are starting to notice that they too have been doing that. That's why they have lined up with and are in these cycles with these karmic people. And it also speaks to that tower reverse card, the addiction part of it. Like the drama is a large part of their addiction. So like, if you've had masculines that either that they don't like drink or do drugs or things like that, or that they do, but there's something else that's been keeping them stuck in these cycles, it is probably the drama itself. Like, look it up. It's biologically addictive. And so it feels like that. And it also feels like there's kind of this energy of like, there's already something going on where they're letting go of a couple of the swords. Like they're not standing there trying to guard the swords that they can't pick up and carry with them just to keep them. Like they're willing to walk away, and it feels like their karmic is kind of that person who's like standing there trying to like, swipe at anybody who's trying to come towards the swords on the ground that they don't have room in. And you know what it almost feels like too? Some of these masculines are like, you carry it. The karmics in the past may have been like, hey, you pick up those two swords that I can't carry, you bring them with me, we'll keep them all. And masculines may be like, we don't need all those, but they're like, no, you're going to take it anyways. I want them all. I want all of the fucking things. And now masculines are looking at their karmics and like, if you want it all, you carry it, or you go drop off what you have and go back and pick up the rest. And it feels like for some of these masculines, karmics are either they started in that energy doing that with these DMs, or they're returning the favor on it. It's like, you do you, I'll do me, right? Like that kind of a divorcey sort of energy, even if there's not actual marriage or matrimony, or if there's like a false marriage put in there. Then we have the Seven of Pentacles. which, it kind of fits with that Four Pentacles reversed energy. Like, masculines are looking at, like, yeah, they planted some seeds and some stuff grew from it. But is it what they wanted? If they continue to tend this garden, is it going to bring them what they want? Or it's a reflecting energy. Like, yeah, you achieved some things. Definitely give yourself a pat on the back for that. Though, is what you achieved still what you want? It could have even been what they wanted when they started, but now that they have it, is it really what they want? And they're looking at it. They're looking at you. They're looking at their situation. They're looking at all the things going on, and it's like, am I happy with this? And then we have the Two of Swords underneath that, which tells me no, no, they're not. But they're also battling inner thoughts, and there's kind of spirits kind of putting the blindfold on them in that sense of, like, you have to. Actually, you know what? I just got two messages. They are somewhat blindfolded, but because the Two of Swords is in reverse, the blindfold falls off too. So it's one of those, like, Spirit is showing them where their indecisiveness and their refusal to speak up for themselves, for others in moments where it's necessary, their stubbornness and them being too guarded about things. Like, Spirit is showing them, like, you spent too much time in this energy pretending like you could not see, so you could not make a decision. And now you're still in that space where you don't know that you can make a decision, but you cannot any longer sit there and act like you don't know better. You cannot sit there and act like you don't see exactly what's going on. And so their guides are kind of in the space of, like, we hear your prayers, we hear your thoughts, we hear what you're saying. You are not happy over here, you want to be over there, you don't want this stuff anymore, you want that stuff. Like, why are you still sitting in this energy when you know what you want? And then we've got the Eight of Wands and upright, which suggests movement, travel, projects, things like that, and communication. And with all the other cards that are going on around here, it's one of those, like, there's a lot of things that they need to communicate. And they actually want to communicate, and a fair amount of them will communicate. But there are so many different ones, and especially, like, with these surrounding cards, like karmics, these karmics that they're wrapped up with, make sure that there are always ones, and there's always arrows shooting, landing. You got to watch your step, you got to watch your word, you got to do all this stuff, right? And then, depending on how karmics have tangled them up with everyone else, even people who otherwise wouldn't be like that are probably also being like that. So, like, there are so many things going on that they're not sure what to communicate. And things keep changing. So right when they think that they can go, oh yeah, like, this is the plan and this is the thing going on, then it changes again. And then they go, well, how can I communicate what the plan is when the plan keeps changing and I don't have full control of the plan? But I feel like Spirit's saying it's leaning back into that Two of Wands reverse with them, though. Like, if you're aligned with people who keep changing things and don't have enough self-control and ability to stop and say, this is the plan, this is what I want, you're putting yourself in that position. You're keeping yourself in that energy. You have to be willing to set the plans. You have to communicate. You have to have healthy boundaries. This again also too suggests there's movement energy. So they may have just moved or be moving, or there may be air travel of some kind. There may be different things going on with that, but mostly it tells me that there's so many things going on that they aren't sure which direction to go, but they are starting to see that that's how the karmics are keeping them stuck in these cycles, right? Next, we've got the Star card in upright, and that's wishes manifested. It's balance. It's that feminine energy. And the really funny thing, it's interesting because I just decided to do this video, facing away, and right under it is the Emperor in upright. So we've got the Emperor and the Star, like, right next to each other, and that's divine masculine, divine feminine energy, right? And it also tells me that that's what they're wishing for. That's what they want to manifest. They want to feel like an emperor. They want to feel like a safe space for their kids. They want to feel like they've got their ducks in a row. They want to feel like they've got their castle and that things are, balanced. That they're tired of juggling. They're tired of constantly go 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 to try to put out fires for other people and things like that. Anyways, I'm running out of video time before this thing's going to cut off and then be a part two. So I'm going to leave it here. take what resonates, leave the rest for others. Comment below if you like a reading on a specific thing, and otherwise, I will see you in the next video.